Colorado Avalanche 6, Edmonton Oilers 5. The Edmonton Oilers have been swept by the Colorado Avalanche. Congratulations, Colorado Avalanche, for advancing to the Stanley Cup Final. This is your next day reaction with Zach Link and I. Zach, that wasn't fun.
You know, in a sense it wasn't, but in a sense it really was. You know, the Oilers went down as they did all season long with some incredibly chaotic hockey.
Yeah.
They lived by the sword and they died by the sword, you know, you look at the game last night, they spot Colorado a 1-0 lead. They come back, they score 3 straight. Colorado scores, Edmonton scores. Colorado scores 3 straight. We're sent to overtime with a Zach Cassian goal of all friggin' people in the final minutes of the game. And, you know, at the end of the day, the Oilers lost the puck battles in the overtime frame there on the Arturi Lehkonen goal.
Yeah.
You know, Brad Malone couldn't win the face-off draw. Duncan Keith got out-muscled by Lehkonen. Nobody got in the lane of the Cale Makar point shot, and Mike Smith let a rebound out that Lehkonen banged in. It's tough. It's frustrating. But you know what? It was one hell of a season, buddy.
No, 100%. And it's like when we lost, I didn't really feel sad or mad just because I knew the trek to come back was almost nearly impossible against this Colorado Avalanche team. It's almost like you kind of already accepted defeat, but you wanted some silver lining. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was a chaotic game. I went to the game last night. It was probably one of the most enjoyable hockey games I've been to. But now also I've been to 2 playoff games in my life, and they both ended in overtime losses, so that's not great. But let's just go through some of the goals. What did you one goal that I thought was kind of confusing was I think it was Colorado's tying goal, maybe, or I don't know which one, where essentially Mike Smith seemed to get pushed in the net. He thought it was goaltender interference. What happened there? Yeah,
it was a bit of a strange one. You know, the puck comes in towards the net, and it's a bit of a mad scramble out in front. You know, it looked like there was some contact with Smith. A little bit hard to tell whether it was an Oilers player.
Yeah.
You know, there was a couple of Colorado guys that had their sticks in the crease there trying to bang away at it. Interestingly enough, I had somebody send me a clip in the ECHL last night where a similar goal was scored, and it actually got called back for goaltender interference. So it was interesting. The Oilers chose not to challenge that one. I think it was probably the right move because at the end of the day, even if they said it's a disallowed goal, obviously, you know, that would work in favor of the Oilers, but if they called it a good goal, we'd be on the penalty kill.
That's true.
And you look at how good Colorado's power play was all series long. It was a determining factor in the series. So, you know, they took the bet, and at the end of the day, they pushed it to overtime. I mean, I don't know what more you can ask for from this team against, like you said, you know, a Colorado super team that's looking like an absolute juggernaut right now.
100%. In this loss, like, who is it more of a team loss? Was there someone you can kind of say, hey, you know, you could have done better? Like, I personally thought Mike Smith, you know, I don't like to play in the goalie on losses, and sure, defensively they could have been a bit tighter, but there was a couple shots there where I'm like, Mike Smith, man, you got to do better, especially at this stage of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
He had a really tough series against Colorado. Is it all on him? No. I mean, the Oilers can play better defensively for sure. You know, Mike Smith made some good stops at certain points, but, you know, he let in some pretty weak goals. Yeah. There's no other way to put it in this series. You know, you even look at last night, there was a couple where you'd love to have him back. And he admitted after the game that the Oilers didn't get enough saves, you know, putting the blame on himself for it.
That's good. Yeah.
Because it's well-deserved. I mean, I thought as a whole, the team really struggled in this series. They couldn't match Colorado's tenacity, their ability to fight for pucks. You know, but again, it's like they all said, like, Colorado's a good team. Like, there really should be no shame in this playoff series against Colorado. They are that good. And the Oilers, as we saw, got exposed for their warts. Still a bit shaky on the back end. Duncan Keith didn't have a great series. Mike Smith didn't have a great series. You know, the Oilers bottom 6 struggled at times. Couldn't buy a goal for 2 games.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a tough series. It really, really was.
Well, a lot of people thought this was going to be like a good match for Edmonton. Both their teams are very quick. They can match each other's pace. And, you know, I think I expected maybe like a 6-game series, 7-game series. But no, it ended in 4, and I didn't expect that. Some obviously had other thoughts, I think, out there. But, yeah, anything that just surprised you about this series at all, like about Edmonton and Colorado?
I am surprised the Oilers got swept. I really am. I mean, you know, you look at that game 1, and it was really a toss-up. You know, the Cale Makar goal in the first game was a big determining factor in what happened there, because not only did that goal count when the Oilers challenged it, the Oilers ended up on the penalty kill and got scored against right afterwards in the start of the second frame. That was really difficult. If those two don't happen, it's a 6-6 hockey game, right?
Yeah.
Game 2, game 3 against Pavel Francouz, the Oilers couldn't muster anything. They had very little in the way of high danger chances, especially in game 2. That was really, for me, the game where I was like, oh boy, we're in real trouble here. I thought game 3 was actually the best game the Oilers played all series long. I thought front to back, they brought it in that game, and the numbers showed it. The Oilers controlled 75% of the scoring chances at 5-on-5 in game 3. They couldn't buy a goal. The Oilers, at the end of the day, they got bit by the PDO bug. For people who don't know what PDO is, it's essentially combining your on-ice shooting percentage and your on-ice save percentage. So any number, 1, so to speak, is the normal number. Anything higher than that, you're considered lucky. Anything lower, you're considered unlucky. So for the Oilers against the LA Kings, the Oilers had a PDO of 101.7, which is a little bit on the high side. Against against Calgary, they had a 105 PDO, showing that they were very, very lucky. Against Colorado, it dropped all the way to a 98. So, for the Oilers, they really, in a sense, got unlucky in this series. Their luck ran out. And I think at the end of the day, that was a big reason why, we're sitting here right now talking about the Oilers being out of the playoffs.
Who would you say was the player of this series between both sides? I think for me, it was Cale Makar.
Yeah, it was Makar. That guy is just, he's an animal. It's just
such a joy to watch.
Incredible.
Yeah.
He's got Connor McDavid's speed, and he's a defenseman.
Yeah.
And I think, for Makar, he really grew, I think, in these playoffs and showed people that he can be a really good defenseman in his own zone, too.
Yeah, you saw against Connor McDavid in game 1 especially, I think it was game 1, too.
Like, Makar did an incredible job. And a lot of credit, too, to Leon Draisaitl. I don't know what more you can say. Like, the guy is clearly very injured. Last night we saw multiple times where he was grimacing on the benches after plays where he would get knocked down. He still came out and had 4 assists last night.
That was crazy to me.
And all of them were primary assists.
Very good. Nice passes as well.
He set up 4 guys who were able to score. You look at the Zach Hyman goal, the first Hyman goal, like Draisaitl threads that puck through such a narrow lane. It's incredible stuff to see the way that he had played.
Yeah, and you speak of injuries. Darnell Nurse, talk about him, tore his hip flexor just before the playoffs, it seems. He battled through that, and I know he got a lot of criticism throughout these playoffs. I guess fairly so, but at the same time, to battle like a hip flexor.
It's insane. That seriously affects your ability to skate. I was actually talking to a friend of the nation, Physio Mike, about that earlier today, and he was blown away that Nurse was still playing. Something like a torn hip flexor affects your ability to do virtually anything on the ice. The fact that he played in the playoffs in the first place was nothing short of a miracle. Tons of credit to both of those guys for playing through the pain.
So, what's next for the Edmonton Oilers? We have free agency, offseason, the draft. What are some Ken Holland's main priorities right now?
Well, right now it's locking up Jay Woodcroft and Dave Manson. It's very clear, it's very apparent that they are, so to speak, the answer behind the Oilers bench. You look at what they were able to do, the work speaks for itself. The Oilers were outside of a playoff spot when they got promoted from Bakersfield. And not only did they make the playoffs comfortably, they went on a run to the Western Conference Finals. In and of itself, that is a very successful season for this franchise and for these coaches. So I expect in short order, them to have the interim tag taken off for Jay Woodcroft and him to be the head coach. I don't have any inside information on it, but at the end of the day, I look at it and I say it's logical. It makes sense. There's nobody out there in the market that I think would be a better fit for this job than Jay Woodcroft right now. Beyond that, obviously the Oilers have some key UFAs they have to lock up, especially a guy like Evander Kane, Brett Kulak. They got RFAs and Kyler Yamamoto, Ryan McLeod, and Jesse Puljujärvi they have to sign. It's going to be quite an offseason around Edmonton, to say the least. Yeah,
and I honestly don't know if we'll be seeing Evander Kane in Oilers uniform next year. I think he's going to be demanding a lot. I don't think the Oilers will be able to match that, and unless he wants to kind of take a pay cut because maybe no other team wants to have Evander Kane, who, he does bring that kind of, drama and the storylines, right? And I don't know if any other team wants to take that on right now, but what he's produced for the Oilers is incredible.
Yeah, he was a point per game player in the regular season and the playoffs, and I think importantly, he was quiet. You never heard anything about any of these issues from the past coming up. I think he's shown, at least in this short stint, that he has changed, so to speak. Whether that can continue in the long term is yet to be proven. And I think that's going to be something that teams will definitely consider when it comes to signing him. I have a hard time seeing the Oilers be able to fit him under the cap. Frankly, it's going to be very difficult to do based on what he was able to produce. If he wants to stay in Edmonton, he's probably going to have to take less money.
Probably.
The other option could be the Oilers could look to sign him to a 1-year deal at a little bit cheaper and then have a bit of a handshake deal under the table where they sign him to, a 2 or 3 year deal after that. Because the Oilers have a lot of cap space that's going to open up, not this upcoming season, but the season afterwards. They're projected to have about $26 million in cap space, not this offseason, but the next one. So, the Oilers have some options there. It'll be interesting to see the way that what they choose to do and how it plays out.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then also we have the NHL draft. The Oilers will be drafting 29th overall. It's a bit of a weaker draft class, so don't expect any big names, I guess. It's not that deep, so we'll see what happens. I think they're going to be drafting defensemen, I feel. I looked at it. There's a few defensemen around the 29 overall pick.
Yeah, that would be a good option, good route to go. I wouldn't be surprised to see him trade back too.
Okay.
I think it makes sense. The Oilers don't have a second, third, or fourth round pick in the draft this year. Yeah. It would not surprise me in the least to see them say, okay, you know what, we're going to trade back to late in the second round and pick up, a fourth or a fifth round draft pick as well. Just because you got to try and get some more draft capital. You got to try and stock the shelves right now. And you do that by having, as many draft picks as you can. Yeah.
And I guess to just wrap things up here, some people may view this Oilers season as a fail because, they didn't win the Stanley Cup. But this is also the best Oilers season in 16 years, making a Western Conference final, being in the final 4 teams left in the NHL. That's an accomplishment you should be proud of. Yes, you want to win the ultimate prize, but, I think this is a step in the right direction for this Oilers team. I thought that in 2017 as well, so I'm kind of, fingers crossed it doesn't go the same route because, in 2017 we make the second round. I feel like, we took another a step in the right direction, and then we don't make the playoffs. I'm really hoping it goes a bit smoother and it's more of an uphill curve.
I think it will, and I think it absolutely will. I think the steps this team took forward this year have been massive. I think the learning curve has been reached. The Oilers have gotten over that metaphorical hump, so to speak, of the playoffs. Like you said, getting to the Western Conference Finals is tremendous, and this season really should be considered a success.
No, 100%. I think one thing to note is back in 1983, the Oilers got swept by the Islanders in the Cup final. Next year, the Oilers went on to win the Stanley Cup. Obviously, this wasn't the Cup final, but, there's similarities there.
Yeah, absolutely. For the Oilers looking forward, it's cup or bust.
Yeah.
It really is. They've fully entered the cup-winning window right now. It is wide open, and the Oilers need to take advantage of it over the next 3 years here.
I think for next season, what we need is less of a roller coaster. We need more of just a steady season where, you get a couple wins, you lose 1 or 2, but no 6 games losing streaks, please. None of that. Just have a nice, steady, successful season, go in the playoffs, and then create some damage,
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big thing for the team next year is finding that consistency. We looked at the highs and lows of this year.
Yeah.
From a 16-5 start to a 7-13-3 stretch to Jay Woodcroft and Manson coming in and turning the ship around. There was no shortage of stress this year,
Yeah.
There really wasn't.
No. There was moments where you didn't even think we'd make the second round. Some people didn't think we were going to make the playoffs, and now we're here. So
yeah, absolutely. So it's been a wild ride, and hopefully they can be a little bit more calm next year.
Yeah, and with that being said, thank you for everyone who tuned into our little series here during the playoffs. We'll try to bring it back next year. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you made it this far, and play La Bamba, baby.